Hi, you guys. I am Dr. Cade, and I'm sitting here with a very special guest, Brisa of Ruby's Honey, and we're going to talk about all things honey today, which I'm very excited about. The best honey around. Doing it. You're a mama. You've got a background in healthcare. There's a lot to kind of unpack today about honey and about you. So where do you want to start? You want to just jump right in?
Yeah. So like he said, my name is Brisa. I started as an emergency room nurse, and then I had actually known my husband over half my life. My family always bought honey from them, and so that's kind of funny because I've known him for a really long time. He was always the weird beekeeping kid. I was always like I was the weird, punk rock kid, and we would like look at each other and just be like, "What's up?" And then that was it, But
one day that changed.
One day, it was funny. One day we had a bee swarm in our yard, and he had to come and rescue me from this bee swarm. And it was like, it had been years since we seen each other. And we both kind of were like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing? You changed," like it was cute. So
nice work, Josh. Nice work.
So he was. We like to reference back to that he was my knight in shining white pickup.
That is so fantastic.
So yeah, it was all history from there. So that's when. We started dating, and about our third date, he's like, "So, when can I ask you to marry me?" And so we got married about a year later, but what was really cool is the tradition that his family has is that they gift beehives for wedding presents.
Wow.
So his older brother gifted us 8 beehives,
wow.
And so we just kind of started the mess from there.
Wow.
So now we're running about 400 beehives at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that keeps us very busy. It's definitely it's not just a job, it really is our life.
Cool.
We live and breathe it. I mean,
cool.
We have to work really hard not to work 24/7, because there's just a lot that goes into it, but we love it. We really do. And
yeah, labor of love.
Yeah.
So it's just not something that you guys decided to do one day. There's clearly a family history there, and something that you guys are very, very dedicated to doing.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of talk in the news over the last several years, 5+ years, about bees being a big part of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
How is the health of those 400 hives?
So about 10 to 15 years ago, they noticed that the bees were vanishing. They were disappearing. And eventually they coined the term colony collapse disorder. And what they discovered was a combination of multiple different factors that the bees and beekeepers had to deal with. And it was actually a combination of work between beekeepers and scientists to figure out what's going on. Obviously pesticides are part of that, but that's really only a small percentage. We have to deal with pests in the hive now. A lot of those actually come from importation of goods. One of the biggest issues that we have to deal with is something called the Varroa destructor mite. And what that is that's like a little tick that attaches itself to the back of the bee. And it will transmit up to 40 different viruses and bacteria. So it's very important to do prophylactic defense against those insects, those pests. There are people that there's like a degree of the beekeeping community that is anti-treatment, but that would be like having a dog or a cat that you don't treat for fleas or ticks. You know what I mean? It's not right. You gotta take care of your pets. Nowadays bees are pets. That's pretty much what it is. It's their livestock, their pets. You have to take care of them. You have to give them medication. So, our bees are good, but that's because it's a full-time job, and we schedule certain treatments to be done during certain months and certain times a year. We make sure we're not doing any of those treatments when the bees are supposed to be producing honey. We try to boost their immune systems before they get ready to make honey. And we do that with a whole bunch of different methods. So
it's always wild to me, like when I'm buying something at the grocery store, the story that goes beyond, just that product on the shelf. I feel like we're so disconnected. So again, thank you for your time, and just enjoy sitting down, learning so much about this, and hopefully you guys do too. So there's ways that you guys are preventatively trying to build up the health of the hive, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so you guys travel with them, though, is something that you've told me. Yeah. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. So we move our bees around. We actually move our bees around within Florida. So we'll go between different counties. We have our bee boxes on pallets so that we can pick them up with a forklift or a bobcat, put them on a flatbed truck, and then move them around.
That's so cool.
And why we do that is so that they have their natural resources so that they have pollen and nectar. Bees actually need both. Pollen is like their protein, nectar is their carbohydrate, and they need both to be able to survive. So we move them around. If one area seems like it's being taxed too much, like the bees aren't bringing in enough resources, and you can go through the hive and see if they're starving or if they're doing really well. So we move around based on that. We move them around based on the type of honey that we want to make. And then in the summer, we load them up and we ship them to Michigan, and we go with them, and we live up there to take care of them all summer. And
how do you get them up to Michigan?
So we hire flatbed semis. And and actually there are some crazy brave semi drivers that they will get hired by beekeepers to drive. And they'll a lot of times it'll be like a dual team, like dual driver team, because once you put the bees on the truck, so what we do is we pick them up, we actually stack them multiple pallets high, and then we use massive nets and we net them down, and then we strap the heck out of them. And then we pray really, really hard, because that's our whole livelihood on one truck. But but that has to be a straight shot. Like that driver can only stop like to get fuel, or if he has to stop, it has to be at night so that the truck doesn't overheat. Occasionally you will see in the news that there are semis of bees that have flipped, and that's just, every time we see that, we're just like, we pray for those beekeepers, because that's got to be so hard.
So stopping at night, so the bees aren't going to get out,
so
right?
They're netted, so they won't get out too terribly bad, but it's mainly so that they don't overheat, because bees actually will create their own. They have their own thermostat, and they like their hives at about 92 to 93 degrees. But if they're all on a truck emitting all of those 400 to 600 hives that you can get on a semi, and they're all emitting that heat, and you stop in the day in the sunlight. So that's why they have to keep going.
Not
keep
one
that
of
wind
these things
going,
has ever crossed my brain. It's so
it's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it.
It is.
It's like, who came up with this?
It's amazing. And so wow. Yeah, so much to think about. It's really, really cool. So you guys have been doing that, and obviously been doing that successfully. And does that create a lot of stress on the bees? And are they producing less, or is there a period of time where they're producing less when they're traveling up there and coming back?
Yeah, so it's all a learning curve. We've only been taking them out of state ourselves for about the last 3 years. So every year we're getting a little bit better at figuring it out. You definitely want to kind of beef up the hives and strengthen them as much as possible right before they go, because they'll only be on the truck for about 28 to 30 hours. And then once they get on the ground, they're offloaded normally into just like a pool yard until we can get them all spread out. So it will take them a couple days to get oriented and all that, but that's one of the benefits of going to Michigan during the summer. It's alive and blooming, and normally they can get right to work, and they're really happy up there. They do really well.
Well, one of the other benefits too is they're exposed to other things and get to produce honey with other benefits, correct?
Yes.
So maybe we should start transitioning the conversation to that, right? Because honey, you've shared with me, honey has a lot of different benefits. Just using that in numerous ways, which hopefully you'll talk about, not just orally, but topically too. So go ahead, I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, so we have, multiple different types of honey that we make down here. We have the saw palmetto, we have the orange blossom, Brazilian pepper or sunflower, which is our fall harvest. Those have different benefits. When we're in Michigan, we make it's all like a combination of multiple different nectars, but the majority of what we made this year was something called basswood or linden honey.
Awesome.
And that is supposed to help with like respiratory symptoms, rhinitis, inflammation of the sinuses, that type of thing. And when you taste that honey by itself, it's really interesting. It has a minty or mentholy flavor to it. So so we were really excited.
So cool.
And we had a really good feedback for it on its own, and then we decided to put it into our allergy blend honey.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So,
can you still feel or taste that flavor?
Honestly, that you can't. You probably could if you tasted it by itself and then tasted the allergy blend, but that's what's cool about the allergy blend. It's got notes of all the different types of honey. Yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
Just,
So is it 3 in the allergy blend?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, so it's our spring, summer, and fall harvests all blended together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I know there are some people that when they heard that we were offering honey from Michigan, they're like, oh, well, I don't want that. But it's like, okay, I get that, because there's this whole thing about, only raw local honey.
Right.
And I agree with that for allergy benefits. But we made the honey, like our bees made the honey. We extracted it. We know the quality of it. Yep. And when I found out the additional benefits that there were to this honey, I was like, heck yeah, we need to put that in the allergy blend. We need to, because that's what that blend is for. It's flavorful, but it's also medicinal, and that's why we do that.
Can you tell me about the topical use and what you guys do there?
Yeah, so personally, we've used honey on burns a lot, because we have stuff from like the bee smokers. You can burn yourself on that. When we're melting down wax to be able to rework bee equipment, we can burn ourselves with that. Honey is always real good to just put on there. They've actually, in the hospital, they actually have made something called Medi honey, which they've processed, and essentially what it is it's honey that's just been thickened up. So we just, put a dab on it and maybe cover it with something. We've used it on infections. Years ago, we had a friend that got bitten by a brown recluse spider. And even with antibiotics and medications, those bites are very, very hard to treat. And we told her to put some of our raw honey on it. And she said that was the only thing that finally started to help it heal.
So cool. That's one to definitely remember. Okay. And just putting it straight, not mixing it with anything. No,
you can just glob it on there.
And what are like the characteristics of honey? Were you saying antimicrobial? Is that the word that you use?
Yep. Okay. Antimicrobial, antiviral. It's got high amounts of potassium. And that's, my father-in-law was telling me that's what he was reading, is that's why the honey is antimicrobial and antiviral, because it's high amounts of potassium. It dehydrates the viral or bacterial cells.
Interesting.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
And so, but we're not just talking about any honey having those characteristics, right?
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between your honey, local, versus like the store-bought, or I always kind of joke around about like the ones in like the teddy bear container,
Yeah.
Okay. So tell everybody about.
Or the ones at like a Cracker Barrel that say made with honey-like substance. And I'm always like,
does it say that? Honey-like? Does it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've seen that quite. I'm like, oh,
at least
what is
putting it up front, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's scary. So so we just try to do things with integrity. Any beekeeper that is trying to do things with integrity, they'll figure out the right thing. But really, what it gets down to is God made those bees to make that honey perfectly the way it is. Yeah. So we like to allow them to do that process unadulterated. So all we do is pull it out of the hive, we get the big chunks of debris out of it, and then we put it in a container. And actually, if you hold our honey or any other raw good honey up to the light, generally you'll still see little particulates floating around in it, and that's all the stuff that you want. That's the propolis, that's the beeswax, that's the pollen. You go to the store and the honey, most of the honey, even if it says raw, unadulterated, blah, 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 you hold it up to the light, you won't see that stuff.
Everything's out
because
of it.
They have to process it. They have to heat it so that they can force it through a microfilter to get all those little particulates out and really void it of any of the beneficial things that cause it to crystallize, but those are also the raw benefits.
So then the end product you're left with is just higher amounts of sugar, right?
Yeah.
And less of the other beneficial things, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should jump into that, for any of you maybe on the fence about using honey for any particular reason. We went through that in depth in our nutrition talk, and honey is definitely for, pretty much everybody, except maybe people dealing with diabetes or cancer, autoimmune, or somebody who's really sensitive to insulin spikes. Honey is really our preferred choice of a sweetener to use. Also,
babies less than 12 months old, it's indicated that it's better to not use it under that age.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up too. But again, that not all honey is created equal. So awesome to have this conversation with you. And you brought up another component that I think is, more people are using or getting into, is the propolis. Can you tell people a little bit? We didn't talk about this at all beforehand in preparation for this. You want to tell us a little bit more?
We're going to jump with it. Yeah. So propolis is a really cool thing. That's something that the bees actually make from different types of tree sap. So obviously in Florida, their favorite source for the propolis is pine sap.
Okay.
And you can smell it. What it is
Cool.
it's like a black tarry substance, and the bees will eat it, and then they secrete it out of their propolis glands. And what they use that for is to waterproof the hive. So any cracks or
Awesome.
crevices that they have, they put that propolis there.
From the inside out?
Yep.
Okay.
And the other thing that bees like to do is anything that has a little bit of a wiggle or room, they like to seal it up.
Like glue it down,
Yeah.
huh? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like for example, we every now and then we'll do like bee talks, and we'll get our observation hive prepped, and we'll put a frame in there, and within a couple hours, those bees have sealed that frame to the glass. So it's like if you
amazing.
wiggle it, it's not going anywhere because they have solidified it really, really well. It's really cool. But propolis, really anything that bees produce has different benefits.
Okay.
But the propolis, that's one that they like to use a lot in like cosmetics products.
Okay.
There's also some people that like to make propolis tinctures. And so because it's that sappy, super sticky texture, I haven't done it, but they will apparently mix it with like a high-grade vodka to
Interesting.
be able to break it down because
Okay.
it's so sticky and tarry, and then they'll add it to their tincture that way. So yeah, it's interesting.
A
Yeah,
lot of
and then
different ways to do it.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Is there anything else that you would like people to know? Did we talk about the metal?
No, we didn't. So yeah, that's something. It kind of entertains me. That's why I like to bring it up, because I had no idea that this was a thing, and then we did a market, and I had people keep coming up to me in like that same day, because we sell little wooden honey dippers just kind of as like a novelty, you know, because they're cute. And so I need one of these because I read that you're not supposed to use a metal spoon with honey because it denatures the enzymes. And I'm like, okay. Well, just spitballing here, because generally, like, that's the nurse in me. I like to try to make sure, like, before I open my mouth, I like to try to do my own research. That way, I'm not inserting both feet.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, I mean, we all do it, but I try to look into things. But I was just like, the wheels just kind of started turning, and I'm like, well, I don't think that's entirely accurate. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I'm just thinking here, but. So right off the bat, the way we extract honey, so we put it through an uncapper, which has a stainless steel blade. And so that
you're done
cuts
right there. You're
exactly.
done.
Not to mention the stainless steel settling tank, the stainless steel extractor, the stainless steel wax spinner, and then the stainless steel barrel. I mean, it's like, even down to the hive tool that we use to pry the lid and frames apart. Like, this honey has already come in contact with metal. So I kind of nicely said that to her. So I'm like, so if that were accurate, I think the damage would have already been done before it got to you. But here's the thing, in my opinion, honey it's a superfood. So it's got its own protective mechanisms as long as it hasn't been heated and adulterated. You know what I mean?
Well, I love that you went through all of that stuff, and that totally makes sense. And for somebody who doesn't know the background, again, we're so disconnected from how stuff is made these days, right? But, you even went a step further. I was always told, not even to do like a finger in there, which is awesome. It makes it even more fun, right?
Yeah.
Even more fun. Okay, that's good to know.
And I can't help but think, because I make like sourdough and there's other like fermented stuff, like I can't help but think like the honey potentially likes the contact with your skin. You know what I mean? Like, because there's certain fermented things like that sourdough. You want to get in there and you want to activate it. It's like, I feel like it's the same with honey. Like
That's
you put
cool.
your finger in it and it's gonna.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I've actually seen people, I've given them, a sample of honey, and they've taken it off of the honey with their hands, and then they like rub it into their hands, and then they lick their finger, and I'm just like, and then they look at me like, well, what do I do with it now? I'm like, I don't know, that's all you. That's why I gave it to you on the spoon.
That's interesting,
but
huh?
Okay, sure, that's fun, yeah.
People are strange. People are strange. I never understood that until you get out in the world.
People get excited about honey, and that's cool. That's cool. You do you,
Well, I don't think we've ever had so much excitement for anything that we've carried in here than the honey sticks. Those honey sticks, kids cannot get enough of them. They're amazing.
Yeah.
So good call on that. All right, anything else you want to share? Anything else that you want to cover? Any myths, any things that you want to dispel? Anything that you want to share, of how you guys use it in the house?
Yeah, I mean, so the way we process the honey, we really don't process it. All we do is we put it through a strainer so that it catches like the large particulates of debris, and then we put it into a jar. Now,
so no heat.
Because it is raw, it can start to crystallize, and that's what's nice about how you guys have the little jars, the little glass jars. What's great about that, if that honey starts to crystallize, first of all, it has not gone bad. You can still eat it. I have a lot of people that purposefully crystallize their honey because then they'll spread it on things, or they'll eat it off a spoon if they have a sweet tooth or something like that. But you can decrystallize it. So like I said, the bees like to keep their hive at about 92 to 93 degrees. You can, if you wanted to re-liquefy your honey, you can safely heat it up to about 105 degrees, and it will maintain those raw benefits.
So past that is when it starts to destroy
Past
some
that,
of those
that's
ends.
when it starts getting into, and it's not necessarily that it will make the honey bad for you. It's just not going to be as beneficial for you. Yeah.
So, if people are using that in baking and stuff, it's something to be aware of. And there's still the benefits to the glycemic index and not raising the blood sugar as high, right?
Yeah.
But you're not getting all the goodness. So,
yeah.
So do you have a favorite? My favorite way is I love putting it in coffee. I love putting honey in coffee. Like I just cannot get enough of that.
Yeah. So we have a lot of people that buy honey for allergies, right? And every now and then I'll have people tell me, well, I want it for allergies, but I just really don't like the texture of honey, so I can't just lick it off a spoon or something like that. So that's something that I suggest is put it in honey, put it in tea, put it on a piece of toast. If you're going to put it in honey or tea or coffee or tea, wait till the drink is cool enough to drink. That way it's not going to undo that. But baking with it, I mean, that's great. And then I bake with it, and then normally I'll drizzle the raw honey on top, and that way you got all the benefits.
Cannot get enough of it.
So
okay, well, I don't know if we touched base. You guys have a couple kiddos, and you guys have found a way to get the kiddos involved as well.
Oh, they love it, and I'm so thankful.
All three
for
of them?
It. Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I'll get the observation hive ready, and I'll put it in the house, and like within a minute, the kids come, they're like at the glass, like, look, bees, they're so cool. They've all been stung, and they know it hurts, and they still and we try really hard to protect them. I don't want you to think that we're like, hey, trial by fire, get out there, see what happens. No, we don't do that. But they'll see a bee on a flower, and they'll go pick it up and talk to it, and I'm like, okay, you could get stung, and they're like, yeah, that's okay. They just love it.
Cool.
Yeah. So we make them the smoker operators and stuff like that, and they have a blast with it. It's fun.
And they have adorable little outfits.
They do. They have adorable.
So we'll flash it up on here.
Yeah, adorable little bee suits. Yeah, it's so cute.
Okay, so we were also talking about where people can find you, and you guys started putting a list on your website of the different retail locations.
Yeah.
And is that the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. Find a location, that works. Right now we do offer home delivery within Naples, but here soon we would like to strictly be selling out of shops, just because it makes it a little more convenient for our lives.
Totally makes sense.
Because then another avenue, aside from honey production, we do farm pollination, so like crop pollination, that will move bees onto farmland so that they can pollinate crops. And then another thing that we do is we make queen bees, and actually that's my job when I don't mess it up.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about both of those? Because both of those are pretty cool. Yeah,
it's really cool. So, I think I want to say, I could be wrong with my percentage, but I want to say up to 50 to 60% of what we eat on a daily basis is pollinated by honeybees. Wow. So we live close to Immokalee on the outskirts of Naples, so we have a lot of farmland out there that will pollinate for watermelons, squash, zucchini, cucumbers, all that good stuff.
Wow.
So the bees are needed for that.
Again, another thing that I guess I wouldn't have thought about, and knowing that happens out there, but naturally, but versus you guys coming in and actually,
helping the farmers produce that. Yeah. So when we're up north, we help with blueberries, strawberries.
Makes sense.
Tomatoes don't really need it, but like a cantaloupe, stuff like that. Yeah.
And what about the queen bee stuff? You said when you don't mess it up. What's that entail?
No, that's a really cool process. So there's generally one queen to every hive. The queen is who lays the eggs. Okay, so a good queen can lay up to 2,000 eggs in one day.
In one day?
In one day. And
wow.
the importance of the queen bee, not only does she determine the temperament of the hive, so actually so we have breeder queens that we make our queens from, and they come with their own little pedigrees, and one queen can be up to $500 because she is you can get artificially inseminated queens, so that there's no chance of these other genetics, that it's only this one type of genetic for that queen. Yeah, so people could get really, really crazy with it. What we do though, we get our breeder stock, and then we will graft our cells off of that, and so that's a really cool process. Because what you're doing is you're taking larvae that's about less than 12 hours old. Okay. You're using a little tiny needle, and you're putting it into these queen cell cups, and then you put the queen cell cups or the grafted larvae into a hive that does not have a queen. The workers in that queenless hive are hormonally imbalanced, so their glands are producing royal jelly, and they know when they feel that sensation, they need to start making a new queen. And so they will find that larva and go add that royal jelly to that larva that we've put in, and it's that sole diet of royal jelly that causes the queen's ovaries to develop.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and then she'll go on mating flights, she'll mate with several different drones, and then she'll come back and start laying. And that's important because the workers only last about 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. They do not have a long lifespan. Okay. So that's the importance of that queen, to keep that hive going. She's got to constantly be laying eggs.
Okay. And how often are you having to do that whole process with a new queen per season, or when you're in Naples versus Michigan?
So, I graft, when we're full on in season, I graft about 2 to 3 times a week. Okay. So I'll do about maybe 500 to 1,000 grafts per day.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing to think about when you say it's a full-time job, and the timing and the delicacy of everything. It's impressive.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Thank you.
It's really cool. I hope that you guys enjoyed this conversation. There's, I assume, so much more to it.
Yes, yeah, we could be here for the rest of the week, so.
I'm sure. Do you guys have any place you could point somebody, if somebody, or to share more information with their kids? Is there a great documentary? Is there a learning center? Is there any classes or courses for people to learn more?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch. I can never remember everybody's names. I know there's some beekeepers on YouTube that are really neat. Yeah. But all else fails, they can reach out, and we do bee presentations, especially for homeschool groups or church groups, or we've done it for Girl Scouts and stuff like that. I'm happy to do bee presentations, and I can also, suggest them or send them to some other beekeepers that do beekeeping presentations and stuff like that.
I could see my kids going absolutely wild with all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure you get onto Ruby's website, find a place to get your hands on some local honey. Yeah. And anything else you want to say?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
I think we did a good job.
But if they have any questions, they're welcome to shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer. And if I don't know, I know a guy who does.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, you guys. I'm Dr. Cade, and this is Brisa with Ruby's Honey. God bless you all, and talk with you soon.